Hey everybody, let's take a look at my collection of the Bulova Archive series. I'm kind of proud of this. It's been a while since I've made a video. I'm not a watch reviewer, I'm just a hobbyist, and work's been pretty busy. But I've also been on a bit of a watch diet for 2023. This is an example of me being on a watch diet. Some of these watches have already been on the channel, but I've always been a fan of Bulova. They're a really old watch company. They're back into the 1800s, longer than most other watch companies that we all know and love. And what I really like about them is that throughout the years, every period of watchmaking, Bulova seems to have some icons from those time periods. It's not like there was just one heyday. They've been there throughout. I don't have any actual vintage Bulovas. Real vintage watches are kind of costly to collect and maintain, but I definitely like their styles. So I have this selection here. This is far from every single archive watch they've come out with, but yeah, I think the past 10 years or so, they seems to every year they come out with another reissue of some past model. That's pretty significant. And so let's go through them in chronological order, not to when the reissues were released, but when the originals were. I've become a bit of a fan of Bulova, kind of unwittingly. You just collect one and then you find another that you like. This is another Bulova watch from the Joseph Bulova collection, and I absolutely love it. I have it on this aftermarket strap here that kind of fits. I say this because most Bulova watches I'm not the biggest fan of. I think they're too big, kind of gaudy. But the recent years they have been changing that. So I really do love the Joseph Bulova collection. Some of the other collections they have, I love their Precisionist. But yeah, the Archive series I love the most. So let's get into it. Firstly, the watch on the left here. This is probably one of the cooler watches in this collection here. This is their reissue of their A15. I don't know if you've heard of the A11. That's a very popular World War I era watch. This is an A15. It is a reissue of a prototype from 1944. That original watch never came out. The the purpose of this watch, I've never seen this in any other watch, is it has not just one, but two inner rotating dials. I think that's really, really cool. And the idea behind this would have been a pilot's watch. No GPS at the time. You would have had to travel with dead reckoning. So using these rotating bezels, you would kind of set the minute hand to one, and you'd set the hour hand, line up with the hour hand, and you could measure up to 12 hours of time, but in increments of a minute. So you would know, hey, I have to fly at this heading for this amount of time, then I have to turn and fly at this heading for this amount of time. Ultimately, it never went into production. But it's a pretty interesting piece of history. I think this came out in 2019, 2020. It's not the first time they've reissued this watch. They had a line of Accu Swiss watches for a while, where they used Swiss movements, and they came out with a 38 millimeter version of this in a couple of colors. But the dial on that wasn't as authentic as this one. This dial looks pretty much exactly like that original prototype. I think a couple of those are in collectors' hands, but I love this watch. This one's 42 millimeters, so a little larger, but not too big. That's not outrageous, especially given that it's a pilot watch. I think it looks great on most casual wear, and I'm a big fan. Since Bulova is owned by Citizen, it's a Miyota movement in here. I think 21 joule, 42-hour power reserve. There's no date. There's no. This one is hacking. It's their 8200 series movements, which later they added hacking. But yeah, I absolutely love this. In practice, I'm not going to use this for dead reckoning to fly a plane, but you kind of have one bezel to have a second time zone, 12-hour time zone, and at the same time you can measure time in increments of a minute. Really, really cool. As I said, it's 42 mil. The original was 38 millimeter, but it's I think it fits really well, especially given it's a pilot watch. I think it's fair this size. My one gripe about this watch is that the hands, they actually seem a little small to me. They're supposed to match like tip to tip. That triangle is supposed to touch the tip of that hour, and same thing with here. So I wish they used a slightly larger handset, but other than that, I think it's great. I love the leather strap on this. I have no need to replace that. It's not a screw down back, but I think they want to be more period accurate with that. I think that's what they're going for. It is only 30 meters of water resistance, but I mean, it's a leather strap anyway. You're not going to swim with this watch. Really, really cool. It's the 96A 245. The MSRP was 695, but as with the case with all of these, Bulova tends to have a high MSRP, and then after a couple of months, you could pretty much always find them for 20% off, pretty much universally. So that's a really cool watch. That's a sapphire crystal, by the way. Really cool. Wait, dimensions. This is going to be a long video. There's a lot of watches here, but that's okay. They're all cool. Yeah, 42 millimeter. I did say that. And it is 14 millimeters thick. And let's get the length here. 50 millimeters long. A little bit bigger than average, but I think it works. I like it. I mean, I don't like most 42 millimeter watches, but I do love this. Okay, this watch. This has been on my channel before. It's one of a bunch of hack watches they have. I thought this was a World War I watch, but it isn't. It's a recreation of the A15A, and it looks pretty faithful to that original. A bunch of manufacturers made those, and those were Korean War era, 1956. So it is no date. It is a hack watch. It should be. Yep. I think it's the same movement as the last one. This is the special edition one, the VWI, the Veteran Watchmaker Initiative. It's also 30 meters of water resistance, which surprises me given that it's screw down. And I'm pretty sure this is not a sapphire crystal. So of all the watches here, I think this has the lower MSRP. Yeah, this is the 96A 259, MSRP of 359. I bought it. I bought all of these watches for about half that MSRP price. I love this watch. There were a couple of different colorways. This is the most authentic of all of them. In fact, all the watches that I have here, I tried to keep the one that's most period accurate, but I love this watch. That's a 38 millimeter watch, pretty sure. But yeah, the stock strap looks great. I love this kind of fake wire lug and everything. Really, really cool. Yeah, so I said this is not sapphire. I think you can see some details on there. Really cool design on the back of that watch. It says water resist, stainless steel. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that this is only 30 meters of water resistance, but yeah, 38, and this one is also 14 millimeter thick. And what do we got here? 47 lug to lug, significantly smaller, really great. Probably of all these watches, I wore this one the most. Even though it's not sapphire crystal, it's just very simple, very casual. Onto this, really cool. I think this reissue was a 2022. I think this is among the most recent reissues that I have on the table. This is their Millships reissue. Again, a reissue of a prototype that never got made. There's a couple of those on the table. The original watch, 1957. I don't know the exact history. I think the U.S. Navy wanted a watch that you could actually dive in. Dive watches weren't common or didn't even exist. 1957 is early for that. That prototype never got made, but what I like about this is it really defies a lot of assumptions in the world of dive watches because it kind of comes back from that early age. Rather than having a unidirectional clicking bezel, the bezel is bidirectional, but you have to push down into it. You need a pretty good amount of force. So it kind of locks into place, and that's not moving accidentally. I really like it. That's a unique approach. I love this bead blasted case. I don't know how well that comes out. Really nice finish. There are actually two versions of this watch. There's the standard edition, which I don't know how much that is. I think it's like 700 or 800 MSRP. This is the limited edition. There's only 1,000 of these made. And this one's number 56 of 1,000 right there. The limited edition has a Swiss movement. It's a Sellita SW200. The engraving on the back is kind of better. I think that looks so cool. Let's try to get a picture of that. Really, really neat. Other little improvements, the bezel insert is fully loomed. On the cheaper version, only the pip is. It says Swiss made on the dial. Other small thing, the strap on this one is a little bit better. I should mention the strap. A little odd. It gets a lot of flack because it is 16 millimeter. It almost feels like you're wearing a watch on a shoelace. It looks kind of weird, but you know, I'm glad that Bulova stuck to that. It's very easy to say, oh, I like that watch, but if only it had, you know, a wider lug width, and if only, you know, they got rid of the paper on the dial. If only they made a standard clicky button, then it's not the prototype anymore. It's not a reissue. And there's plenty of other watches that have that standard lug width. It looks a little strange at first, but you do adapt to it, and it's just a great watch. I should mention that paper on the dial. Let's get these hands out of the way. Yeah, screw down crown on this one. Oops. So you see this. If there's moisture in here, that paper changes color. And the original prototype had that. It was really hard to make a waterproof watch. It still is challenging, but you know if that paper changes, there's some moisture in here. So it's time to change your watch, right? Hopefully that never happens with this watch. But I love the movement in here. I love the loom. Maybe, should I do loom at the end? Again, I can't make this room dark. That'd be lovely. But the whole thing lights up. I think looks really, really cool. Yeah, on the table, probably among my favorites, this watch here. This is the 98A 265, and the MSRP is almost $2,000. I certainly did not pay that. Let's get some other measurements. Pretty much 10 millimeter, among the thinner so far. And let's see here. I'm kind of breezing through these. There's plenty of videos on these one at a time. I don't want to spend hours here. That's 50 millimeters lug to lug. Yeah, really, really, really cool. I love that watch. Next one here. This one's kind of special. This is a reissue of, I'm pretty sure, a 1968 watch. The Bulova Oceanographer series, I think is throughout the 60s, but this particular model that it emulates is from 68, I believe. And this is a 41 millimeter watch. I think the original was also 41. There's a couple of colorways that they came out with this in 44 millimeter when they reissued this, like 2020. And there's 3 colorways that they reissued this in this smaller, more compact 41 millimeter. Orange is the only one that came to the United States. Overseas, there's some other more standard black and white and one with like red accents. Those have bracelets. I'm in the process of trying to source one of those bracelets because I would prefer that. Really cool, nice glossy covering. This is a screw down crown. This is also an 8200 series movement, just like the one in these. I think it's hardened a bit, but it's the same 21 joule, 42-hour power reserve. Really, really cool. I don't know if you can see, but each of the indices on this one are kind of like this crystal. And yeah, they have kind of loom embedded into them. Really, really special. This is one watch that I'm pretty sure does not come out on camera. That orange glows. I have a couple of orange watches, but this one just radiates. It's like traffic cone orange. It's really impressive. I think if I'm able to find that bracelet, I think I'm going to wear this a lot. This is a silicone strap designed to look sort of like a tropic strap, but it's fitted, and watches at that time wouldn't have been fitted. I think this is 19 millimeter. Yeah, I didn't take lug measurements for all of these. Again, that just takes so much time. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but yeah, 19 millimeters. So this is a perfect candidate to put an accurate tropic strap on. 19 millimeter is used to be the most common size. I think that's half an inch, right? 3/4 of an inch, yeah. So if you see 19 millimeter, you think, why is that company using 19? Well, it used to be among the most common because it's 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, I totally love this. There's also a date magnifier, but the way they do it, it's on the inside. I think that's really, really nice. Could stand to use more magnification, but normally don't like date magnifiers, and I think it's totally fine here. And again, this watch does have hand winding, but I don't think it has hacking. Yeah, it keeps on going. Most 8200 series movements don't hack. And I think it's fine on a period watch like this. Really, really cool. Can't wait to hopefully one day find that bracelet, which has that original styling on it. Next, this is a watch, probably Bulova's, in modern age, their most popular watch. This is one of a couple of different colorways. They haven't come out with one that's actually perfectly authentic. This one doesn't have a date and it has the old logo, just like the original, but it has a glossy case. The original was a bead blasted. It's 45 millimeter. The original was 43. If you don't know the story about this, 1969, the Apollo program, there was a race to have the watch used in space. Omega won that, but Bulova had a prototype, assuming a lot of other companies did too. That's why it kind of looks like a Speedmaster. Originally, it would have been a Valjoux chronograph movement. They're using a precisionist chronograph movement in this watch, and it's really, really cool. Their precisionist movements are high accuracy quartz, maybe not quite as high accuracy as like a Chronomaster or a Grand Seiko, but higher accuracy and just really, really special. I like their three-hand versions because the second hand sweeps smoothly. But on this version, you can kind of see it ticking away at the subdial down there. But for the first 30 seconds, you actually have, is it just tenths of a second, or is there a way to get more precision out of here? Yeah, it stops spinning to conserve battery, but as soon as I stop it, that's going to go to it. Oh, so that's going to be 20th of a second. So I just measured 35, 36, 37.45 seconds. That's why it's a precisionist. It's a lot of precision in there. Of all the watches on the table, I'm probably going to get rid of this one and get the smaller 43 millimeter versions that just came out. I have it here on an Uncle Seiko strap to try to emulate what that original would look like. I've been skipping things. I'm blowing through this. I shouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to put this on. This strap isn't fully broken in, but yeah, I wanted to try to emulate that Apollo look. I think the original watch would have been on a Velcro gray strap, kind of like this. I have a 7.5-inch wrist, and even on that's bigger than average. This watch does seem kind of large, but yeah, originally this came with these straps right here. Simple, cheap, effective. This is a 96A 225, MSRP $595. I think I found it for $300 or $400 something. Yeah, let's put this one on. I'll just kind of hold it there. Really, really cool. Man, I love that. I gotta find that bracelet. That would be so cool. Oh, and the crystals on these, that's sapphire, that's sapphire, that's sapphire. Water resistance, the divers are 200 meters. This watch is a 50 meter water resistance. So we got some 30, 200, 250. Let's move on in time. This is 1969. Oh yeah, the rest of the story. This was actually worn as a personal watch, as a backup by, what's his name? I have it, Dave Scott, on a 1971 mission. The Speedmaster failed, but he pulled out his trusty lunar pilot, which got him through the rest of that mission. They were allowed to keep like a personal backup watch. Really, really cool. I'm looking forward to getting the smaller one. On to two different watches from the 1970s, or three rather. Let's start with this. It's another precisionist. I'm pretty sure it's like the same movement. This watch is the 96K 101, I believe. Yeah, 96K 101. This is a reissue of a watch that came out in 1970. I think it was only made available for that year. This watch is 45 millimeter. The original, again, was 43. So both large watches, kind of exactly what they did here. Also a precisionist chronograph, kind of the same functionality there. That original watch is kind of special and highly sought after. Both of them would have used a Valjoux automatic chronograph movement. This one is sapphire, also 50 meters, very similar to this, but it's pretty loud. It's pretty funky. I don't wear this a lot, but I did wear this on July 4th. This is my most American watch. I really do like it. Again, I wish this was 43 millimeter like the original. I'm pretty sure the original had a bracelet much like this, a mesh. The special edition, yeah, the standard edition just includes this bracelet. There was a special edition that came with this leather strap as well. Yeah, really, really cool. You can't wear this without it being spotted. That's loud. Those hands are supposed to look like rockets, I'm pretty sure. They call this the Stars and Stripes. All those names are nicknames originally, but the reissues, they will mention that. I think technically this is the Chronograph C originally and now when you go looking for it. Really funky, really weird watch. High accuracy quartz. I don't see too many people talking about it. I think it'd be really cool if they reissued this as an automatic at some point. But for now, this is what we have. It's a really, really special, really unique watch. The accuracy on these, I think they lose, like a high accuracy watch loses something like 5, 10, 15 seconds a year. I don't think these have hit that, but I think they're under like a minute, under 30 seconds a year. This watch here is, I think it's the most expensive watch on the table here. It's also limited edition. I don't know how many. I know this is limited edition to 1,000. I don't know how much they made this. I think also 1,000. It says it right back there. Way less than 1,000. This is number 158 of 350. I don't know if that's coming across. No matter. I have an earlier video where I actually review the quartz version of this, which was larger than this, 40 millimeter. And in that video, I did say, hey, I wish it was a little bit smaller. And sure enough, they had come out with this limited edition, 38 millimeter. This is accurate to the original. I think it was only available also in 1970, maybe 1971 as well. It's a weird watch because it's a chrono diver. Let's see, this is the Chronograph C. I'm not too sure about this. Was this the Chronograph A? Doesn't matter. The nickname is the surfboard. And just like the original, you have this navy blue, you have red, you have the navy blue surfboard, and the hands are orange. None of the quartz version have that coloring. Also, none of the quartz version have a bracelet, which is always my preferred. I should say, recently, I've been starting to get into more smaller watches, even though I have a 7.5-inch wrist. I think 38 millimeter looks great. I love this. I absolutely love this watch. The original, as I said, would have had a Valjoux. Are we turning on there? We don't have any power, probably. The original would have been a Valjoux. This is a Sellita SW 510. Yeah, let me give it some juice. Hand wind, screw down crown. This is also a sapphire crystal, also 200 meters of water resistance. There we go. Really, really cool. Yeah. Yeah, I said I wore this more than any other, but this one's probably my favorite. It's rare, it's special. I feel like it's going to be my new America watch, the next 4th of July, more than this one. Really, really special, because I just really like a nice bracelet. I haven't yet sized it, but that's something special. This is the 98A 251, and I think MSRP, this is like close to $3,000. I definitely didn't spend that. But yeah, mechanical automatic chronographs, they're not cheap. It's hard to find one of those cheap, but something rare and special like this, I feel lucky to have. Really cool. So zipping along here, somebody out there has a 30-minute video on each of these. There's no way I can give each of these justice. But this is the Computron. I made a video about this a long time ago. I had 2 other colorways. This is the only one I still have. 1976 is when the original came out. I think everyone knows that the digital watch kind of made its appearance in the 1970s, pretty much alongside quartz. Originally, before LCD watches came out, they were LED and they worked like this. You'd have to press a button and then you would see the time. You could press it again to get the seconds and the date. I don't know if the original Computron had the date. Sunday, and that's the second time zone, and then we're back. Most LED watches were on the front here, which meant when you were driving, that was hard to use because you'd have one hand on the wheel and you would have to take your hand off the wheel to tilt it. At the same time, you took your other hand and pressed the button. You really couldn't check the time while you were driving. The idea behind this watch is you could keep your hand on the wheel with this hand, and you can take your right hand and you can press that button and see what time it is. So these were kind of a driver's LED watch. To me, I just think they look cool. That's unusual for a watch to point towards you like that. And this is the gold color. The original, I think, there was a steel version and a gold-plated version with like a red display. There were a couple of variants where you could see like the texture and the bracelet varied. But yeah, that looks. I don't think there's any watch I have that looks this bizarre. Like, I'd have a hard time wearing this. Like, that's just. It's kind of beautiful and kind of ugly at the same time. I don't really know. It's 30 meters of water resistance. Just like back in the day, you would open this hatch with a coin. Those LEDs use a lot of power, so it wouldn't have been fair for you to have to go to a watchmaker every time to change that battery, because you'd be doing it quite often, every couple of months. So that was a very DIY thing in the early days of quartz before battery life improved. Bulova had a bunch of different LED watches. It's just this Computron with the screen that faces you that is the one they reissued. As part of a wave of LED watch reissues, I think this one is among the most unique. And let's see, yeah, this is the 97C 110, also $395, and I don't think they sold very well. You could pick them up pretty cheap. I think I got mine for like 100 and something. But yeah, that's that. That's my collection of Archive series watches. It's not every one. There is an A11 out there with like a blue dial. Doesn't look quite like the actual World War II watches, but I think it's interesting. There's also the parking meter watch. This weird chronograph it's so bizarre. That's the most recent, also a 2022 watch. I'm kind of waiting for prices to come down on that. But I'm probably going to swatch this out to a 43 millimeter in the not too distant future. And other than that, I can see myself keeping these for a long time. They're really unique, really special. And yeah, somehow I all of a sudden became a Bulova fan, which, I didn't seek that out. I just seek out the watches I like. And yeah, you wind up collecting a whole bunch of really cool watches. I thought I would make a really cool video showcasing these. And maybe you don't know much about Bulova, you hadn't thought about it. Maybe one of these strikes your fancy. I don't know. Yeah, hopefully you enjoy that watch, that video and these watches. Sometime in the near future, I do have another Bulova planned, Bulova watch video planned. Even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are not my only Bulova watches. Believe it or not, this is about half of them. So yeah, expect another follow-up Bulova video in the near future. Subscribe if you like this video or you want to see that. Subscribe if you didn't like this video. That's a new one. Yeah, thank you very much.